Hey, welcome to the live. If you're new here, my name is Liz, business coach for women of color. And y'all, I had a doozy this morning. I tried, and it serves me right for trying to use some new tech that I just got in that I was super excited about. And I don't know how to use technology anymore. Serves me right for thinking something was just as simple as you just plug it in and you go. No, that clearly was not the case. So, any technical glitches that happen, I apologize in advance. But with that being said, we're going to go on ahead and get to today's topic, which is creating profit and impact in your business, but on part time hours. And I think this is an important topic to discuss because most people, when you're starting out your business, you're going to be working a full time job on the side as well. You're not just going to be quitting any and everything to then go full time in your business. I mean, some people do that, but usually there are a lot of like horror stories like attached to that. So that's just not the route that I would choose to go personally. But if for some people who do and it works for them, like definitely, yes, you are courageous. But for most of us, where we can't quite take that leap or don't really want to take that kind of a leap just yet, there are steps to this. And you can build your business in a way that feels good to you, in a way that works with your nervous system and helps to meet you where you are. You can do that in baby steps without actually taking a big, humongous leap that will terrify you and possibly have some negative consequences. But to start, we really have to remember that when we're starting a business, especially starting a business from scratch today, you have to understand that it's going to involve a lot of behavior change, right? Because how we've been conditioned when we grew up, going through school, going to, maybe you went to college or, and just going into the 9 to 5 workforce, we've been conditioned to be workers, right? We've been conditioned to usually specialize in a particular field, to then be plugged into somebody else's business to help the business become profitable. So we've essentially been conditioned to be, cogs in the machine, if you will. We have not been conditioned or even taught really how to create our own businesses. And the things that you do for each are different. It requires different sets of behaviors. To be successful in a 9 to 5 job, that behavior involves really being able to take direction well and to follow direction. And you've been conditioned all through school to follow direction, to follow direction well, to show up somewhere at a particular point in time, to take your breaks at a certain time, to take your time off at a certain time, and you just do what your manager tells you to do. Like that's what we've been conditioned and trained to do. So those are the behaviors that we take on in our 9 to 5 jobs. When you're starting your business, though, the behaviors switch because instead of someone telling you what to do, you have to essentially create your own tasks and then do them. So there's difference there, and there's less guidance. Honestly, there isn't a lot of guidance going on in regular 9 to 5s either, but I won't digress. That's a story for another time. But in business, there's no one that's telling you what the next step is to go. So you really have to be able to look at things big picture and also be able to look at the minutia. You are both the strategist as well as the tactician. You have to be able to do both. And I'm using these words, and these words are they've been used and abused, honestly, because if we boil it down to its most fundamental concept, literally, what is a strategy? A strategy is just a plan. Like you're literally just creating a plan of how to achieve a goal. Just a plan, nothing fancy. Like if you want to go to the store, your plan is to get into your car and drive there. That's a plan. That's a strategy. Okay. So, don't overthink these things. Like, we hear these terms being used by people put into these positions of authority, and it's usually because they've made a ton of money or because they have all this experience, and so they use these words, and then we think they're these big, huge, massive concepts when at the end of the day, they're really not. It's a strategy, is just a plan. You develop a plan. And then the tactician part, the actual execution of it, is you just taking the action steps in that plan. So if you want to go to the store, your strategy to get to the store is to get in your car and drive there. So then the tactics that you use are, you walk outside to your car, you turn it on, and you drive it to the store. And so it's not a big, huge thing. But when we think about it in terms of creating a business, right? When we think about it in terms of generating income and money outside of a 9 to 5 job, it can have this big, huge connotation, this big, huge, massive, just this massive presence where we think it's just so much bigger than what it actually is. And in many ways, what it can provide, what a business means to us, what it means for our future, what it means for our time, what it means for our finances, like that story can be big within us, and that can be connected to your vision and to your internal motivating, driving factors. But the actual strategy of what you want to do, the actual tactics involved with what you want to do, those are very simple. Those are very, very simple things, especially in this age of social media now, where we can create content on our phones, where we can reach complete strangers literally just by sitting in our living room. It's a completely different world right now. And that's why it's never been a more accessible time to do this. So let's connect the strategy and the tactics back to, doing this on part-time hours, right? Because we have very limited time. And even if we're thinking about, that grand day when we want to just, be working in our business full time, for many of us, full time does not include working 40 plus hours a week. Like, we already know that this system of working 40 hours a week is broken, that it does not equal actual productivity, that it hurts our mental health and our physical health. We already know that it doesn't work, but people are still just kind of on that train, just letting it go because it's the only thing that they've known. It's just what they're used to. And no one is really willing to stand up and say, hey, you know what? I actually want to do this differently. Like, this doesn't actually work, and I want to do this differently. Thanks. Nice energy. Thanks. But they want to do this differently, right? So we can do this differently in our businesses. We don't have to make it so that we have to just be working 40 plus hours a week in our business. Like, doing what? And this is why it's one of the cool things about starting a business on part-time hours is that you really get to boil down to what actually is necessary to move your business forward. Because there are lots of things in business that aren't necessarily necessary to moving things forward. If you think about it, every aspect of business, right? Everything you do in it, like when you're operating your own business, you are the marketer, you are the salesperson, you are HR, you are operations, you are, the graphic designer, you are the IT person, you are the CEO, you're everybody, right? And every single thing that you do in your business, every single aspect of it, in the 9 to 5 world, those are entire departments. Those are entire departments that have been expanded to the level of thousands of people in a single department, right? So the things that you do, it's easy to get lost in every single aspect of the things that you do in your business, which is why when you start with focusing on part-time hours, when you start on focusing on, okay, what's the most important thing that I need to do right now or today or with the limited time that I have, then you already start lean. Like you already start off working on just the things that actually matter for the goals that you have right now. So, one of the main things that you're going to want to focus on is really letting people know about your business. Like when you're starting a business from scratch, that's the biggest first step is letting people know that your business exists, that you have a service to offer, and that you can help someone. So that means that marketing is really going to be the majority of your time. Like before you even get your first client, all of your hours are going to be spent on marketing. So if you watch my other videos where I focus on making that first 100 offers, that's really fundamentally where you are focusing all of your energies. Now, it may seem simple to just, oh, I just need to start off by making 100 offers. Like it might sound super simple, but at the end of the day, it still requires behavior change. And behavior change is actually really hard to do. Yes, mindset is super important because you're not going to change your behavior if you don't change your mindset. Like we've been conditioned to have the mindset of employees, right? We have not been conditioned to have the mindset of entrepreneurs. So in order to change the behaviors that you do every day that will help to build your business, you have to work on your mindset. Honestly, I would say that growing a business from scratch, especially if you're not someone who gets to benefit from going viral after posting like 2 pieces of content, like that is honestly just as hard as trying to lose weight. It's just as hard because it requires you breaking from your original behaviors, from your original habits to create fundamentally like different ones, to create new ways of operating and thinking about things. And that's really hard. It is really hard to do. So even the baby steps, like when I work with my clients, like I literally just have them start off with trying to create 3 pieces of content a week. Like that's where we start, because even those baby steps can be really hard when you're just trying to first build those new habits, when you're first trying to change your mindset about it. It can be really hard. And sometimes it takes support to be able to, think about how you're currently doing things and just make the tiny pivot that you need to go in the direction you want to go. Like it's not going to be, oh, one day I'm not posting anything to social media, and then all of a sudden now I'm posting 3 original pieces of content a day with an offer at the end for the purpose of growing my business. No, you're not going to, that's 0 to 100. There are baby steps in between. There are micro pivots. Like that's how you change behaviors. It's with micro pivots. So when you're working on changing those micro behaviors to get to where you want to go, you're not going to have a lot of time to really be able to maximize the few hours a week that you have to grow your business. You're not going to have the time to maximize that to its fullest potential. No, and nor should you, because you need time to build those micro pivots, to take those steps so that you create a new baseline for yourself. And this new baseline will now be your new normal, where maybe cranking out 3 pieces of content a week isn't a big deal. And all right, am I back? Okay. Sorry, y'all. See, I warned you in advance. I said early on, technology is not technolizing for me today. Okay. All right. Where did I leave off at? Oh, yes. So when you're working on part-time hours, right, to grow your business, it's going to take you, you're not going to be able to maximize that to the most it possibly can. Like you're not going to be using that as an opportunity to, repurpose content to like 4 different platforms, all this stuff. You're not going to be doing it on day 1. You have to focus on the baby steps, because that is how you're then able to build. You're adding on layers at a time to create new baselines. But in order to do that, you have to be able to get that first baseline down first, of just getting used to creating 3 original pieces of content a week, and then not taking more than 30 minutes for each of those pieces of content. So the number one reason why it can take folks hours to do their content is because they don't trust the words that are coming out of their mouth or the ideas that are coming out of their head. That's really the main reason people will spend hours and hours on content, because they've really been conditioned to critique and and critically look at their work in a way that isn't helpful. Like, we wrote papers in school and submitted that, and we're expected to get graded on it and get feedback about how it needed to be better. And then if you weren't particularly a good writer, or more like you didn't write in a way that the teacher wanted you to write, or write in a way that the system requires you to write, another story entirely, then you were taught early on not to trust your first draft. When in actuality, your first draft is gold in your business. There's nothing wrong with it. And definitely feel free to reread, check for errors, or if it, sounds clear to you. But at the end of the day, if you find yourself over critiquing the things that you're writing and the videos that you're producing, it's coming from a place of not trusting your first draft, not trusting the ideas that come out of your head, how you communicate. Through life, we've also been conditioned to communicate in a very particular way, to sound in a very particular way, especially if you worked in corporate America. You've been conditioned to hide and to not see how you present as acceptable. But in your business, this is your world, and you get to show up however you want to show up. And you get to trust that the words that come out of your mouth, that the ideas that come out of your head, that they will be compelling to someone else. Because if you think about it, you really already know how to sell. Like, I personally love me some Ben & Jerry's ice cream. And if you ask me which Ben & Jerry's ice cream I would recommend, I would tell you without a moment's hesitation, dirt cake. And I will go into how the crust is just so amazing, how the chunks of chocolate just light me up. And guess what? I don't need a marketing degree to be able to do that. And neither do you. Think about the last time you explained to someone, maybe a friend, maybe a coworker, whoever, how much you loved something or enjoyed it, or how much you hated something and why you hated it. We are already inherently persuasive when we are in our authenticity. So when you're creating content for your business, showing up as you, just being you, you are already going to be inherently persuasive. You are already going to be inherently creative, and you're already going to be producing some amazing, valuable content. And literally all it has to be is something that will help someone. When people talk about creating content with value, they're literally just talking about creating content that will actually just help someone, something that someone will find helpful. And you would be surprised how many things people would actually find helpful. Like you just presenting either new information or presenting something from your perspective. People find that helpful. When you get to the point of being able to trust what comes out of your head, your ideas, how you communicate, then creating content from scratch in 30 minutes or less will be a walk in the park. And it'll be incredibly valuable to you as you build your business on part-time hours. And then at that point, you only need to have that baseline of 3 original pieces. And then you start to repurpose. So you build that first foundational layer. You build those micro habits of just maybe when you sit down to write a piece of content, just letting it flow, not overcorrecting, building that habit of creating and then posting it. And then when you build that, after you built that habit of creating and then posting it, letting the ideas come to you, letting it be simple, letting it be easeful, you build on that next layer of starting to repurpose that content, because now you've developed a bit of a content bank. And I always recommend save your content. Don't just post it to social media and then that's where it lives and that's where it dies. No, save your content. And it may not be feasible to save everything right now, but save things like your captions, save things like maybe your graphics, short form video clips, like save the things you can save so that you can repurpose from it later. Start build you're building that habit. And then as you grow your content bank with original pieces of content, then you can start repurposing it. And then you move from maybe posting 3 times a week to posting maybe 4 times a week. And then once that becomes second nature, then you move to posting 5 times a week. And then maybe even you can do more depending on how much you're able to repurpose, how much you're able to take advantage of tools that are at your disposal. But when you're working on part-time hours and you want to maximize like your impact, your opportunities to increase your income, remember that it has to start with that first base layer, building those micro habits so that you're able to change those initial behaviors to get used to it. You got to pick up that 5-pound dumbbell before you can pick up the 25-pound one. Like build those small behaviors first that you can then layer on top of it. And then before you know it, in the same amount of time that you've been using to produce maybe just 3 pieces of content a week, in that same amount of time, that 3 pieces of content turns into, 6, 9, whatever, right? And when you start getting comfortable at that level, that's when you really start looking at your data and your metrics to see how you can start tweaking things to hit your goals. But learning to create that baseline of changing those behaviors, developing those little micro habits, like that's the first fundamental part. And it does start with mindset. Mindset's super important. So that's all I got today. But fundamentally, like I want you to leave from this live understanding that, it's not you can't go from 0 to 100. And we really need to reevaluate what we consider to be 100, because a lot of the messaging that we get out there in the online space is that, okay, getting up and going to work and working in your business 60 hours a week is, 100. No, that's nowhere we want to get to, right? If you're at 0, 100 for you right now, it's just getting into that habit of maybe just, deciding to create something. Maybe that's your, we need to be able to be compassionate with ourselves, with where we're at, and be able to make those mini tweaks to get to where we want to go. Because once you do build that fundamental baseline, then getting to your income goals is as simple as repurposing and making sure that you're also, taking care of yourself, understanding that the social media highlight reel is going to be telling you that it's normal to hit 6 figures in 6 months when it's not. Remembering that, there's going to be 300 days out of the year where you're not making money. So make sure that you have things in place to take care of yourself and to pour into your cup during that time. And then when you get comfortable with that, it's just numbers after that. So let me know if you have any questions. The technical glitches, technology always wins. We'll be all right. Find me on Instagram if you have any questions about anything we talked about in this live. And I do have spots open for one-on-one coaching. So if you are interested in starting off the new year, building those micro habits that you can finally start hitting your income goals, the income goals that you can reach, then use the link in the description box below to book an interest call with me. We'll chat. We'll see if it's a good fit. And I'll see you there. Take care.